Hello, welcome to Hollywood Crime Scene. This is Rachel Fisher.
Hi, this is Desi Jedeikin. We're back.
Well, they don't know that.
Now they do.
We're having sound issues over at Hollywood Crime Scene Studios. We might need to buy some new equipment soon.
So this week we will be discussing the iconic Traci Lords. Thank you, Rachel.
I did that the first time we recorded.
We're still going to try to add those impromptu moments for you.
Well,
on
fortunately, we only got through about 5 minutes. No, less than 5 minutes of the show.
If you don't know Traci Lords, she became a porn star despite the fact that she was underage, a scandal that rocked the adult film industry, but catapulted the scrappy young actress into mainstream film with the help of one of Hollywood crime scene's heroes, John Waters. Blessed be our saint. Needless to say, Traci has had a very interesting life, and she gets into it in her memoir, Underneath It All, which is our main source for this episode. So let's get started. Traci Lords was born Nora Louise Kuzma on May 7th, 1968 in Steubenville, Ohio, to Louis and Patricia Kuzma. Her parents were not keen on the idea of state-sanctioned marriage and just declared themselves as husband and wife one day. Their non-standard way of looking at life is what bonded them initially and carried them through the early years of marriage, in which they had four daughters in a very short time period, including young Nora, who people called a baby Buddha because she was so quiet. But Louis quickly buckled under the pressure of his young family. He loved the idea of kids, but not the reality. Eventually, he saved up enough money to buy a house, and Traci said her early years here are her happiest memories. But the idyllic appearance of their home life was a stark contrast to the reality. Patricia, now 24 with 4 young kids, was often home alone with no car, a virtual prisoner, while her husband worked late hours at the factory and afterwards went straight to the bar rather than home. Patricia, who had always been the kind of black sheep of the family, the local wild thing, had become her worst fear, just a housewife.
Damn.
Traci's dad would frequently come home drunk and they would fight, often coming to blows. Traci would almost start to time her dad coming home. She knew that he kind of came home around the time that the show The Lone Ranger came to a close. And that's when her dad would normally stumble in. So she started leaving before the end credits of the show started going, and she would retreat to what she called her breathing corner, a place to escape and hide during her parents' fights. Her sisters eventually realized that that was the best spot to hide, and they would sometimes get there first, sending Traci into a panic attack. She was really running and afraid, trying to escape this monster who was her dad. She didn't want to be treated like her mom, who looked like a rag doll as her dad would beat her, and she would see this fear in her mom's eyes. And Traci would feel extremely guilty that she did nothing to help her mom, but obviously she's a child and was too afraid. She often wondered what they did to make their dad so mad. Perhaps he wanted a son and hated being in a house with all girls, and this kind of angered Traci because she was like, what's wrong with being a girl? One morning, her mom finally snapped. As the children ate their breakfast of Fruit Loops and peanut butter, and I was like,
Together?
I need some elaboration on that, Traci. You know, when you're reading a book and you're like, I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Like, how do you just move past that as if it's a normal thing? I've never heard of such a thing. But the kids were obviously screaming out of control. The mom is like literally like on her last leg. Like she cannot deal anymore. And she loses it, throws a shoe, which hits Traci's older sister. And they're in the ER. Like she busted, like it left damage on her forehead. And the mom, of course, was devastated that she hurt her daughter in this moment of just exhaustion. And she knew she needed to change her life. So when Traci was 7, her mom finally leaves the dad. She was sad, but obviously relieved. The 4 girls and the mom left while the dad was at work one day, and just like he showed up to an empty house and he was furious. He began reveling in Patricia's early struggles to make ends meet, but she did it and eventually enrolled in college and bought a new car. But the better she did, the more mad her dad became. One day he showed up jealous and full of rage because he heard at work that people had seen her with a new boyfriend. The children watched through a window as their parents fought outside. They watched him punch her 3 times in the face, and they were living with the mom's great grandma at the time. They saw the great grandma grab a butcher knife out of the drawer, and Tracy grabbed a broom. Her and all her sisters and the great grandma ran out screaming to help their mom. The dad ran and got in his car and sped out of there.
Good.
The mom was lying on the ground bleeding, though, and they had to take her to the hospital. When they picked her up from the hospital, her face had zigzags of stitches all over it, and Tracy said all the girls hugged her leg sobbing, but no tears came out. This is honestly very relatable to me.
Jesus.
I know. When I was reading it, I was like, oh my God,
me too.
That happened to me. Yeah, I get that, girl. It was kind of oh shit. The next day they left town to go to Utah, but that didn't last very long, and they were soon back in Ohio. And the dad was suing the mom for visitation rights. And the kids all went to court with the parent, the mom, for this visitation
and they're
hearing.
Our dad sucked.
Yeah. And they were kind of why aren't you asking us what we want?
Seriously.
And she was furious at the judge, who did say that the dad would get them on weekends. And she was in the book, she's I stopped believing in democracy. That's it just made me laugh because I was I get that feeling too, where she's what? This is a judge. They're supposed to help us. And it's such a different time too, the mid 70s. So she saw her monster dad smiling at this decision, and she's I wanted to kick him in the fucking face. I was so angry. And she was terrified and white-knuckled the first time they had to drive to his place for the first weekend of visitation. And then she realized she had no choice but to accept it, and she tried to focus on the positives of her dad, and there were some. He was a great cook. So he was from a Ukrainian immigrant family, and this was when he was his kindest self. While he was cooking, he was laughing, he was jovial, he loved making cakes, pies, pierogies, and Tracy became his sous chef, perfecting rolling up stuffed cabbage. And these good times obviously confused her because she felt guilty because at the dad's house, he actually had some money. At the mom's house, they struggled to live. They had nothing. So she kind of felt guilty that she started enjoying going to the dad's. And the memory of that horrible night when their dad hospitalized their mom became a distant memory. And now they started enjoying going to his house where they would cook and also garden. Tracy was about 9 when she first remembers hearing her dad say that she was blossoming. I know. The grossest thing an adult male can say to a young girl. Now, this wasn't a creepy one, but still, it's kind of ugh.
This wasn't a creepy one?
Well, I mean, it doesn't lead to some kind of abuse from the dad. At that point, he began clipping a lot of Dear Abby columns for her and her older sister. These columns usually had stories about young girls who ended up pregnant, and the dad was these are whores, these are bad girls.
He called them whores?
The girls in the articles, yeah. The girls who got pregnant. Not his daughters.
No, I know.
Okay. Are you shocked? You're he called them whores? It's yeah, that's how it was in the 70s. At school, Tracy heard a rumor that girls who got kissed down there would get pregnant. That's how it happened. And she kind of
someone who doesn't like eating pussy started that rumor.
No, I can't do that. That's how you get pregnant. And she had a crush on an older boy named Ricky, and she started thinking oh, maybe he should do that to me. And they start kind of hanging out. Ricky is 16 and she's 10.
What?
Yeah. So that's a really disgusting age difference.
That is awful.
It's I kept looking back because I was how old was she? And I was wait, 16 and 10 is so young.
Dude, you're in 5th grade.
That's a high schooler going out with an elementary school. Needless to say, he's don't tell anybody about our secret romance. And Ricky as you might think about a 16-year-old dating a 10-year-old, he is not a good guy.
Yeah.
And just 3 months after they began hanging out in secret, he rapes her and basically tells her it's what she's wanted while he's doing it. Her dad had warned her about this. This is like her thoughts process after the fact. And she's like, I'm one of the girls in the Dear Abby column. She walks home thinking about how her dad thought of those girls and that she said to herself, here I am, 10 years old and already a whore. So obviously, Traci doesn't tell anyone about what happened. She doesn't even write it in her diary. She wants to pretend it was nothing but a bad dream. And she's afraid she might be pregnant, but she does some research and realizes that she couldn't be pregnant because she didn't even have her period yet.
Oh my God.
She started wishing she was someone else. She hated everything about herself. She hated her old-fashioned name, Nora. And she was like, why can't I have a cool girl name like Lisa or Tina or Tracy? She started she started to pretend she was someone else, like falling fully into this world of make-believe. Eventually, their mom picks up and moves them again, not too far from where they were, but it was definitely a downgrade. A one-bedroom apartment. The daughters all lived in the bedroom, and the mom slept in the living room. And she also got a new boyfriend shortly after moving into the apartment. His name was Roger Hayes, and her dad called him the fat hippie who was always eating ho-hos. The girls liked him, though, because he would buy stuff like groceries. Like, they didn't really have groceries all the time.
Yeah.
And junk food as well. So that was like a huge hit with the girls. And eventually the mom moves into Roger's small mobile home, which is like kind of like a glorified big van. And they just park it in the driveway in front of their apartment and run a long extension cord inside to the apartment. And the mom starts living in the mobile home in the driveway, and the kids live in the apartment.
That's
like
so
almost
weird.
like they're not exactly by themselves, but they're in the apartment by themselves a lot. And the mom is just like living her single life in the driveway. And
I mean,
obviously,
at least she didn't make the kids live in the van. I guess.
I guess. And this was really embarrassing because all the neighbors were like, what the fuck is going on? Because Tracy's like, she's mortified because her mom is literally fucking in the driveway every night and all the neighbors can hear it.
Does this also remind you of your childhood?
Yeah, actually, I lived in a mobile home outside my dad's house when I lived with him that year.
Yeah.
And I actually liked being there because I wanted to be separate from him.
Yeah.
So it was a positive in that situation, but still kind of gross. So Tracy's like, can't invite friends over. Like, this is really embarrassing. And she kind of retreats more into this world of make-believe. Soon, all of them load up and get into the mobile home and head to Key West for a vacation. And it's during this trip that Traci finally begins to let her guard down and trust Roger. Well, that's a mistake. On that trip, Traci wakes up feeling cold. So basically, there's like the driving cavity or whatever, the front part.
Driving
The driving cabin. I don't know. But it's not really a separate thing. They just have like a curtain that pulls across.
Yeah.
And then the kids are like all on a mattress in the back. I mean, this is so fucking gross. And that's the sleeping cabin or whatever. And so she wakes up feeling cold and she realizes that her tube top had completely slipped down while she was sleeping in the back. But while she's trying to adjust it, she looks up and she sees in the shadows Roger standing above her, zipping up his pants.
No.
Yes. The mom is driving with the curtain pulled at that moment, and he's just in the back with the girls. And he like pulls open the curtain and starts making a joke about Tracy's tube top falling down. And he's like laughing and making jokes about her little poached eggs.
Ew,
and the mom is like,
ew, Desi, stop.
That's what he says. That's
No,
not what I said.
believe-
I didn't make that up.
No, I know. That is disgusting.
And Tracy's like, obviously like out of it. She doesn't know what has happened. And her mom is just like laughing too. And she's like, behave now. And she's like, okay. I guess I'm wrong for being afraid and thinking Roger did something bad because my mom is fine and laughing. And why would she do that if it wasn't okay? And like, what's wrong with me that I think such bad things about people who love me? Like, that's her rationalization. Now, on this trip, Roger also tells the gang that he plans to move to California. And it isn't long before the mom's like, we're moving to California too in 2 months. So Tracy obviously immediately starts worrying about her dad, what he's going to think or do when he finds out. And even though she is sad, she does love the idea of moving to California and leaving their roach infested apartment behind. The mom also is like, oh, and don't tell your dad. So for
Yeah.
2 months, the kids have to lie and pretend that's not happening. They eventually find themselves on a Greyhound bus to California, and Tracy begins to fantasize about her new life surrounded by palm trees. She's like, when we're in California, everything's going to be great. We're going to be safe. And she's totally like, Hollywood, here I come. Like, this is
Yeah.
great news for her. Well, Redondo Beach. They're not going to
Oh.
be in Hollywood.
Oh.
So they get there, and it's like a big Spanish style house. Tracy's very excited. There are two stubby palm trees in front. And she runs inside. And the second she runs inside, she sees a hairy, fat man smoking pot. And they quickly realize that that's their new roommate, one of several.
Oh,
And
no.
Tracy's mom looks like she's going to cry because she didn't realize that they would be living in this home, which is basically like a druggy flop house. And now the whole family is in this house,
Shit.
surrounded by weirdos and drug addicts. But Tracy has bigger problems. She is a teen about to enter junior high in California, and she has a lot of obstacles to overcome. She's already been labeled as the kid in the freak house. This is the house that's known by everyone in the neighborhood that probably always has the cops coming over. And she also has to get free lunch tickets. So she's like, that made me instantly a loser, having to take out my coupon and get my free lunch. So Tracy's mom and Roger are almost immediately on the rocks from the moment they arrive. And it wasn't long before Roger started entering her room at night, just staring at her while she pretended to sleep. Finally, one night, he inserted his fingers in her and then nothing, and she began to think she was imagining it. Soon, Tracy's mom became close to one of Roger's friends, a guy named Dan, and Tracy actually scolded her mom. She's like, why are you going to leave one loser for another one? Just stay with the loser we know. This is also very relatable. It's very frustrating when you're like, come on, like, are
Again.
you fucking kidding me? And Roger was doing coke now. So things were even worse in the house. Tracy's mom wanted out. And what she does is she decides she'll leave Tracy and Tracy's older sister with Roger and move in with Daniel and the two younger girls.
No.
This is insane. But it isn't long before Daniel kicks her out, and she's living in a woman's shelter now with her two younger kids, and the girls are still with Roger. Like,
What? And
just
and
insane.
Tracy's like 13.
No, she's like, yeah, I guess she's like 12, 13, like early junior high.
Right.
So yeah, it's not a good situation. The mom eventually does find an apartment and she kind of forces everyone back under the same roof. Like at this point, Tracy and her older sister, they're like troubled youths. Like they're already full on, like we're bad teens now. And it makes sense. And they kind of don't want to go to the mom anymore. They're like, let's do it with Roger. He like lets us do whatever we want.
Yeah.
But they have to go. Tracy starts smoking Marlboro Reds, cutting class. And even though she's with the mom, she still crashes at Roger's. In the book, she says, I never wanted to be like my mother, kids at 16, a husband who drinks and beats you. When I hit LA, I said, there's going to be some changes here. I hated the world. I was hateful to my mother. If I came home from a date at 11:30 and my mother questioned me, I'd say I was out fucking somebody. I wasn't. I just wanted to piss her off. Music became her life. She even joined a band, and she does eventually get a boyfriend, a surfer guy named Dean. By the age of 14, they're starting to have sex, and obviously this is much better experience for Traci. She had worried she wouldn't enjoy sex, but she is having a good experience with Dean. At 15, she becomes pregnant by Dean. And when she tells him, he doesn't say a word and then turns and just walks away from her. So she's like, fuck. She doesn't want to tell her mom because she's worried her mom will go off on her. And she goes to Roger for help, showing up at his house, and there's a rager going on. She gets drunk and parties with them before spilling her guts about the pregnancy, and Roger arranges to get her an abortion without the mom's knowledge. She tries to approach Dean again and is rejected. Once again, her father's words come back to haunt her. You play, you pay. She had been used again. So she starts looking for a job to get some money. She's introduced to Roger's friend, Lynn, and starts working for Lynn as her babysitter. And the woman offers to improve her job opportunities by saying she'll help her get a fake driver's license. She provides Traci with a new birth certificate on condition that if she's ever caught, she'd say that she had stolen the phony ID. Traci now has the alias Christy Elizabeth Nussman, and the driver's license says she is 20 rather than 15. In her book, she said, I was leaving Nora Kuzma behind for good. She was the one who had been raped, used, and abused, and I didn't want to be her anymore. And as for the consequences of my actions, why would I even think of them? I was an angry 15-year-old acting blindly from a place of rage and desperation, so I never once contemplated the price I would ultimately pay for giving false information to the DMV. This fake ID gave her a newfound confidence. She found out Dean and his friend called her Nora the Hora, and she threatened to tell his parents about the pregnancy if he didn't give her money, and he did. Once her ID came in, she began applying for jobs, including waitressing and modeling. According to Traci, the molestation by Roger, the rape by Ricky, which she called the single most traumatizing thing that ever happened to her in her life, would be what eventually drives her into pornography. She said, my damage drove me into porn. I mean, I was a little girl and I had all of this stuff. I'd been raped, I'd been molested, I'd been abused. I was messed up and I was angry. In February of 1984, she answers a newspaper ad for Jim South's World Modeling Talent Agency for figure modeling. Posing as her stepfather, Roger drives her to the agency and he gets her a drink before the interview so that she's not too stressed out. She said that when she went into the agency, she could hear a Southern accent talking on a phone. They said she gets paid double for a DP and she chooses the guy. A DP, I'd learned in film study that meant director of photography. But I wondered why she needed more guys. Nearly a year later, on the set of a porn movie, I was horrified to find out that DP was not a director of photography. It was slang for double penetration. This sex act involved one woman, two men. Both men entered her at the same time. Did people really do that? Didn't it hurt? I said I would never do that because high school girls don't have anal sex. Jim South took one look at Traci and said he was going to make her a star and basically signed her on the spot. But Traci still didn't realize that figure modeling meant nude modeling. And she seemed unsure about this. And the agent said, oh, it's just art modeling, fashion, stuff like that. He then told her to get naked but leave her heels on. And she was like, I get naked right here, right now. And he was like, gave her a line of coke to get her to loosen up and take some Polaroids. She's like 15 years old doing this with her fucking stepfather or whatever
he took
is.
Her there.
He's there right now watching this all happen. Then the manager told her, like, Marilyn Monroe got her start in Playboy. How many times do you think sleazeballs have used that?
Of course they say that.
So she drops her clothes and models for these Polaroid pictures. She said that Roger is looking on approvingly. And then the manager was like, let me see your ID just for our records. They do that. And afterwards, Roger is like, he's like excited. He's like so proud of her. And she already lines up her first job for Velvet magazine, which she thinks is like a fashion magazine. It's not. She said that when she did this, she flashed on her father's face again. It had been a long time since she had seen or heard from him. And she said she pictured herself naked, spread eagle in a girly magazine and thinking, would he love me again? Would he ever love me? My body seemed to be the only thing men wanted from me anyway. And she said she fell asleep in the car on the way home. So she shows up on the set of her first photo shoot in the valley. The photographer compliments her on her skin. And he's like, and other people are like, what's your secret? And she's like, I'm an ivory soap girl. And they all laugh because Marilyn Chambers is famously an ivory soap girl, and she was one of the first big porn stars. But obviously, Traci has no porn history at her. So she doesn't get why everyone thinks it's so funny.
Yeah.
They immediately give her a vodka cranberry to loosen her up.
And nobody is like questioning this girl's age.
No, they're like, oh, wow, we got lucky. She looks so young. And they dress her in a schoolgirl outfit, of course. After 3 more vodka cranberries, she is completely nude. They're instructing her to do sexually explicit poses. She says while she's posing, she notices Roger with his hand in his coat masturbating.
No one's monitoring the guy jerking off in the corner?
No, they didn't have as many rules about safety on set as they do now, I'm hoping. And obviously she's disgusted by her honorary stepfather, but would later say maybe it was just the vodka and she was hallucinating. She got paid $250. So at this point, she's asked to choose a stage name. And in a 1988 interview, she said that she chose one of those names she had longed for growing up, Traci. And Lords was named after actor Jack Lord, who was the star of Hawaii Five-O, one of her favorite shows. And she added the S because of her 3 personas, Nora, Christy, and Traci. Traci Lords is also the name of Katharine Hepburn's character in the Philadelphia Story, which always, when I saw that movie, I was like, what? Is that where it came from? So the combo of this little girl gone bad was irresistible to adult magazine photographers. They were like, she still has baby fat.
Oh my
like that
God.
was like a huge selling point for them. And she became highly in demand. Now, at this time, she's still living a double life, going to high school and posing for these smut magazines on the side. But one day she walks into the cafeteria at school and notices some jocks looking at her. One finally comes over and says, hey, Paula, and slams down her first little girl schoolgirl cover. And there she is in her outfit, kind of covering her boobs on the cover. And the headline says, Pump Paula. She runs out of the cafeteria and never returns to school. Instead, she takes a bus to Hollywood and goes to Marilyn Monroe's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's getting late, and a cab driver pulls up and he's like, hey, I'll give you a ride for free. Inside, the driver's like, no sex, just a golden shower. And she like hops out at the next flight. And she said she learned her first Hollywood lesson. No one rides for free. So she finally makes her way to a seedy motel in Hollywood, and she notices a lot of hot boys on the streets. She's standing around trying to get a room, and a boy comes up to her and said, this ain't Pussy Town. And he told her to take her cocksucking ass somewhere else. So she starts sobbing and offers him money, and he starts laughing and hugging her and shouts to the other boys, hey, this hoe has dough, let's party. So they're all sex workers hanging out. But she feels safe with them because they're all gay, basically. She parties all night with them under the 101 freeway overpass. And then she goes to an hourly rate motel nearby because she has to clean up for her photo shoot that she's scheduled for. This is a sex book, and Traci and her partner are basically posing in different positions all day. It's one of those instructional books. And this is a real education for Traci because she doesn't know anything, and she didn't know there were that many positions.
This is crazy that she's literally learning all of this stuff.
I know.
On these sets.
Yes. So she is kind of attracted to her partner, but then his boyfriend shows up at the end of the shoot, and she's like, is every hot guy in Hollywood gay? It's like, maybe, I don't know. So in August of 1984, her manager, Jim South, calls her into the office, puts down a check for $5,000, and tells her that she has been selected to be the Penthouse Pet of the Month for September 1984, the 15th anniversary issue. She seems kind of unimpressed, and the manager tells her that this is like winning an Oscar in the adult film or the adult whatever industry. And she just had to figure out, she's like, how do I cash the check? Like, she doesn't even have a bank
Oh
account
my
to do
God.
this. But she knew she had to get out of Roger's house because once again, she caught him stroking over her while she slept. So she goes to a local bar in Hermosa Beach called the Poop Deck and meets a loser named Sonny. They move in together shortly after having what was supposed to be a one night stand. He's a speed freak, but Traci, for some reason, feels safe until she doesn't because he's a speed freak and he's a loser. He spends all her money. He starts slapping her around. At this point, she's 16 and she's kind of like doing what she promised she never would, becoming her mother. She finally cashes her $5,000 check and buys a 67 Corvette,
Nice.
even though she doesn't even have a driver's license. So her agent begins pushing her to go further in her career, wanting her to do more hardcore stills and porn. He said she was about tapped out in the nudie magazine world, and they were already looking for fresh meat.
Tapped out.
Yeah, everyone had already taken pictures of her, so it was kind of like, next. That was just like, I know, it's sick. Her Penthouse magazine comes out, and it just so happens to be the infamous Vanessa Williams one.
Really?
Yes. So she's the centerfold in that magazine. And obviously, this becomes like the highest selling Penthouse magazine issue ever because of the Vanessa Williams pictures.
Right.
And she becomes kind of like famous, Traci, because people actually ask her for her autograph. She's like recognized. And she's a little peeved though, because they did spell her first name with a Y instead of an I, but still, this exposure really catapults her. And the attention from this issue, what finally launches her into porn, and she will make her first film in October of 1984. And we'll get to that when we come back after the break. So her first day on set, she's completely loaded. Like she just becomes a drug addict and alcoholic. And obviously this is her coping mechanism to start getting through these things. Her manager tells her it's a softcore thing for cable. And when she walks into the house in the valley, she's greeted by naked women who seem to be having fun. And that's sort of a positive. But then she goes in the bathroom and there's douches, lubes, jellies, sanitizers, and she's more kind of like, like, what the hell is going on here? Like, she's
Yeah.
just completely inexperienced. She looks for the director and she comes across him filming a scene with a woman fucking two guys. And she's kind of like, I hope I don't have to do that. Like, she just like doesn't know what the hell is gonna happen to her. She runs out of the house and drives away, calls her manager, and he's like, grow up. Like he doesn't want to hear.
Grow up.
Yeah.
I'm 16.
Well, he doesn't know. Not that it matters because it's still fucked up. But like, I just wanted to. No one knows at this point. Even the manager doesn't know. But her stepdad does know, or whatever Roger is.
There are adults that know. Maybe not everybody.
Well, the stepfather
stepdad
at this
does.
point.
Yeah.
I mean, people probably are like, don't ask, don't tell. Like, don't say it. You know what I mean? Like, she has an ID.
No one's doing that much investigating.
No. So she's like, I have to go back. So she gets higher and returns. The director tells her that she doesn't have to do a sex scene. She's going to just walk around the pool in a bikini and that's it. After the shoot wraps, an orgy breaks out in the house with all the actors. Yeah, for fun. And she's like still intimidated. She goes to like a bar in the house and sits down and pours herself a vodka drink. When the stud of the moment, an actor named Tom Bryan, approaches her, she's wasted at this point, and they begin fooling around. And at some point, right before they're about to finish, she notices that they are being filmed the whole time.
Oh my God.
And this becomes her big scene in a movie called What Gets Me Hot. So according to her, she wasn't acting for the camera, and that's why this scene became so popular. It was all natural, and to this day, she doesn't know if it was planned or impromptu. Tracy always said that in her porn career, she wasn't acting, she was acting out. And that became a turn on for her, made her feel more powerful in those moments. And she began to see herself as a sexual terrorist. Like she liked the power it gave her over men. In her next movie, Those Young Girls, she appears in a role alongside Harry Reams and Ginger Lynn.
Well,
um,
Ginger Lynn's very famous.
Yeah, so Ginger's the big star at the time, and she's very hateful towards Tracy, who's like
Really?
the next, yeah, because it's more competitive. She doesn't want to, you know what I mean? It's like, I think back then you aged out. You're like 25, you're done. So she was very resentful
It's
about
like
the younger.
Showgirls.
Yeah, it's very all about Eve, Showgirls, like that kind of thing.
Tale as old as time.
Yes. So Tracy, got the bad vibes from Ginger, so she wasn't looking forward to this shoot. She walks in and she's like, ugh, like she hears Ginger's groans and she's like disgusted. She's like, does she ever shut up? Like, because it's very fake to her. She's repulsed thinking of their upcoming lesbian scene. And she says in the book, well, at least it was better than fucking that fleshy hairball Ron Jeremy.
Ew.
Ron Jeremy takes several strays in this book, and I kind
As
of
he
want to know
should.
he should only take strays
Yeah.
and directs.
And direct hits.
So I don't know why it makes me laugh because I have always been baffled by his success. Yeah.
He's always been disgusting.
He's not attractive. It's like I don't care how big the dick is. No one wants that.
Nobody wants that.
So this scene is supposed to take place in a pool because this movie is the porn version of the movie Splash.
Nice.
And Tracy is the mermaid character. So it is a pretty big budget porn movie as far as those go. And at some point, Tracy goes in the pool and begins making out with one of the women, like the models in the pool. They had to pull her out of the pool because they're like, your scene with Ginger is up. And she's kind of like, ugh, like, can't I just make out with the model instead? So after turning 16, she appears in a movie with an actor named John Leslie, who is 23 years older than her.
Oh my God.
This is in the porn parody Talk Dirty to Me Part 3. This one's an AVN Award for Best Movie. She is hailed as the princess of porn at this moment. And according to Tracy in her book, sex on camera fed a very specific hunger in me. It was the best drug of all. Porn made me the kind of girl people both condemned and paid attention to, and that was what it was all about. I was hailed as the princess of porn. They gave me awards at the porn Oscars. Performers like Ron Jeremy spoke about how professional I was. Dicks for Hire like Tom Byron bragged about how we were off-screen lovers, and the story of my poolside threesome spread through the porn world like wildfire, making me even more sought after in porn films. I was thought of as insatiable, but it wasn't that I couldn't get enough on screen. It was that I got nothing. I was venting, releasing the garbage that polluted my mind in the only way I knew how. Over the next 6 months, she starred in 20 X-rated films. Most of these were about one-day shoots, so basically 20 days work. But that's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
She became one of the highest paid porn actresses of that time, earning more than $1,000 a day. She also began appearing in non-porn things, including a music video for Gimme Gimme Good Lovin' by the heavy metal band Helix. Never heard of them. Lords continued making more movies until late 1984 when she tried to quit at the age of 16, but she does return a few months later. Her manager convinces her to take a stripping gig in San Francisco to kind of like reboot her like love for the industry. And she does this 2 months before her 17th birthday. But the Traci Lords persona was really beginning to slip. She was a fucking mess, and it showed when she stepped out on stage at the O'Farrell Theater in San Francisco and saw all the leering men who were kind of grabbing at her and like just ogling her. It really sent her spiraling, and she basically had a panic attack on stage and ran backstage sobbing. The manager came back and told her she was a pro and she wasn't leaving until she finished the job. He gave her 2 shots and told her to go make some money. 20 minutes later, she was back on stage, entering to like a virgin. She, at that point, gave her all, performed whatever to the best of her ability, gave the manager the finger as she left the stage, and then once again immediately fell apart. She calls her manager and fires him, like, immediately. She's, like, strung out. She's a wreck, and luckily, the night before, she did meet a nice stripper named Raven who took her home and gave her advice to call a bondage agency in LA when she returned. She's like, "These are great, these Japanese women own it. They're super nice. The clientele is really nice." She's like, "It's a good place."
Yeah.
And Traci was like, "Okay, great. This is a way for me to earn money where I'm not doing porn movies.
And
This is
she's
like,"
in control.
yeah. So, well, not exactly. She lands in Burbank and she basically goes straight to this bondage shoot location. This is basically like fetish photos.
It's a shoot, not a dungeon?
No, she's not going to be a dominatrix. This is
Oh.
like shooting photos and maybe like light videos, but it's not sex. It's like, you'll see. So she was walking around this location and she's like, "This can't be right. This looks like a barn." Uh, she's like, walks back and there's a huge field. In the field, she sees a circular clothesline type thing with leashes attached to it. 3 women all dressed in black leather, one with a gag in their mouth, are walking in this circle tied to this whatever, like maypole type thing. And they're being spanked on their asses by a hooded man saying, "Mush, mush, mush." She sees that there's one empty leash and she's like, "Oh, that's me." And Traci realizes that she's now considered a pony girl. So she gets outfitted in a leather straitjacket, which she was like, "This is appropriate, like considering my mental state right now." And she's kind of like amused. She's laughing, but she's like, everyone is so serious that she's like, I can't giggle at the ridiculousness of this right now. She quickly learns more about this kink farm, basically, and all the different types of shoots there were, including something called sploosh videos, where you get tied up naked and have food thrown at you. And she's kind of like, that doesn't sound too bad to get hit with a coconut cream pie. There's a girl on set named Sherry, and she kind of schools Traci. She's like, "It's really easy. You just do this. I'll introduce you to my agent. He can get you more of this work." So her first casting session is nearly ruined by her dumbass boyfriend, Sonny, who steals her car and gets arrested for a DUI. And she's like, "I got to pull it together and go to this meeting." And she meets a man named Stuart Dell, who she decides is kind of like, has a look that screams, "Hi, I'm a nice guy." And she said he should be named Skip. She's like super irritated, especially when he becomes flirty and starts telling her about how he was recently separated from his wife. And Traci's like, "What is this, the dating game?" She tells him she has another audition and gets the hell out of there. Her new agent then calls her later and tells her Scott wants to discuss a business venture with her after finding out she was the Traci Lords. Because Traci is going by Christy for this bondage thing.
Yeah.
Like, she has eliminated that persona from her resume. And the agent told her that Scott wanted to meet her at a restaurant called Mirabelle. And then he says to her, "That's all I can do for you, though, because I don't work with porn girls." So this guy has basically cost her agent now by kind of revealing her true persona. So now she has no choice but to go to the stupid meeting. She picks the sluttiest black dress she can to go to this fancy fresh French restaurant. At the least, she's going to get a good meal out of this. When she sits down, she orders a glass of Tots, the cheapest champagne, and Scott kind of laughs thinking it's a joke and orders her a Pinot Noir. She actually stumbles to get her ID out of her bag, and when she does, a switchblade falls out, which is so John Waters. So she kind of has this bad girl vibe going. She orders a lobster, of course. Like,
Yeah, why
I love
not?
it. And then she starts listening to him apologize about his behavior, telling her that he had an investor willing to foot the bill so they could start a film production company, TLC, the Traci Lords Company. They would make X-rated films starring her and directed and written by Scott. She is immediately like, I'm not interested, leaves the dinner, and just like gets up and walks out. While she's walking home, he pulls up to her in his Mercedes and he's like, let me give you a lift. He takes her to a motel. She stays there for the night. When she returns to her home in Redondo the next day, she finds an eviction notice on her door because Sonny hasn't been paying the bills or the rent, and he's passed out in his own vomit. She calls 911 and then leaves him for good. Later that night, she calls Scott again, crying, telling him to come get her. She'll do whatever she wants, and she very quickly becomes like his girlfriend, his business partner, and he's kind of like her pimp in the porn world. He starts like pushing her. In March of 1986, the first TLC feature is released titled Traci Takes Tokyo. The second one, Beverly Hills Copulator, is released shortly after.
That's a parody,
I guess. He also leases her an apartment in Redondo, and he takes her to Paris in May of 85 to film a French porn. Traci had trouble wrapping her head around the idea that this guy loved her, but was also directing her to fuck someone on camera. And her drug use is at an all-time high. When she goes to Paris, she's only 94 pounds and she's 5'7". So this is a very thin woman.
She's on coke.
Yeah. She finally turns 18 in Paris on May 7th, 1986. I'm sorry. I might have that date wrong. Anyway, she turns 18 in Paris. So the following morning, she begins filming a movie, Traci, I Love You. This is a very famous movie. She would say in her memoir that many mistake her guttural moans in the movie for pleasure, but she felt like she was dying, like she is done. She returns home to Redondo with a very serious case of, this is how she describes it, a serious case of suicidal thoughts. She's plagued by nightmares at this point, horrifying sex dreams, montages of just naked bodies. And she says, dicks everywhere, fat faces, beady Ron Jeremy eyes. And she truly feels like she's losing her mind. 48 hours after returning from Paris, she's face down on her waterbed, passed out with Scott next to her. She hears a noise. She wondered if it was an earthquake. Then seconds later, the bedroom door burst open. Men stomped in, pointing guns at her, and the room was only lit by her blue aquarium. She noticed their coats had bright yellow letters on the back, FBI. What the fuck was going on? And that's what I'll leave off.
Desi.
This week.
A cliffhanger.
A cliffhanger. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a lot more to come.
Yeah.
Obviously. And then I have this other book I'll probably use next week where it's like the alternative perspective from someone in the industry. I don't know how. I'm going to look into this guy, but I'll probably say what he thinks, even if it's sort of, probably not. I don't know.
It's not Traci's.
It's not Traci's experience, but we'll see what the industry side was of how this all happened as well.
Of how, right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where we'll leave off. We will be back next week with the second half.
I love Traci Lords. I'm so excited about this series.
I know. We'll have some pictures.
Yeah.
She's a very cute child too. But what a horrible childhood. Jesus Christ. It was so bad. Like,
yeah.
Just one thing after the other. And to not have a mom kind of protecting you.
Right.
It's really sad.
It's really sad. Well, she's an icon today.
Yes.
And we love her. And so we will talk more about her next week. And we'll see you for the mini episode very soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.